What's up, everybody? So here we go. We're gonna go over my Merc DPS guide for mainly PvP, but also PvE. So we'll be going through the gear, the rotation, the utilities, and what to take and what not to take. And this is post 5.0 with all the changes that are possibly going to be. And this is a little guide before 6.0 comes out. So yeah, so if you like what you see here, you can like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing one for the PT tank and the PT DPS for gearing, and the rotation and things like that, because those are my two mains, is the Merc and the Power Tech in this game. And then later on I'll just be going over all the different classes and their strengths and weaknesses. Now I won't be doing guides on all of them. The only other ones that I could see a guide coming out for would probably be like Sith Assassin tanking. And keep in mind that these work for all the mirrors, so whatever work for the Bounty Hunter Mercenary will work for the Republic Commando on the other side. So this guide can kind of work both ways, because you won't really change the way you gear on each side. So with that all said, let's just get right into this. So let's look at here, and as you can see, I'm not in the full 258s yet, because it takes a shitload of time to gear in this new update, but the concepts are exactly the same. Like, my gear is not going to change. The numbers are just going to go up from where they are. And this, I mainly do PvP, and on my weekends I nim raid. So basically this setup will help you in both nim and PvP, so you can kind of get the best of both worlds. So what you want here is, for people who are completely new, so this has never changed, is you want the Eliminators set bonus. Basically, it's the Mercenary set bonus. Essentially, there's only one set bonus per role for each class. So Eliminators will work for the IO as well. So there's nothing really crazy there. What you want to do for PvP here is, as you can see, if you look through my gear, I have ripped out all the accuracy out of my gear and replaced it with alacrity or crit and power instead. So, and the reason why I've done this is because you don't want to have too much accuracy. So as you can see, there's 107% accuracy here. What you want to do is 110 is what you really need, or for what I do is 109.999, which still gives you the full accuracy of the gear. So all you do is you take one of these stims. Advanced Polybiotic Proficient Stim increases accuracy by 240 and crit rating by 99 for when you're raiding, and this will send you to that 110% threshold of accuracy from here. And let's take a look. Where's it? Oh, I used the last of those stims, but I have it on right now. Is the Versatile Stim, the exact same rating and value of item, and you get mastery and power increased. That's what I use for PvP. So that's what I would do for there. For all this is, as you can see, what I did was to rip the accuracy out. So in 5.0, the gear is slot locked. So which means that essentially, in order to start min-maxing your gear, what you're going to need to do is get the healing pieces and take the enhancement out of the healing pieces and put them in the gear, if that makes sense. And the only way to really, you could do that on either one tune. How I recommend gearing up in this, at least this climate, is have multiple mercs. I know this sounds horrible. This is what I did to gear quickly, was have multiple mercs and just have them do the dailies on each of them, do the world bosses, and do the queen kills, or do the solo ranked games on them, and get a piece from each of them, dump it in legacy gear, and transfer it over. Unfortunately, you can't do this for left side. So how I do it really quickly for left side, my main focus is on the left side first, for besides the Vambrace or the arm guards. You want to ignore that, and you want to get these done, because these are not legacy bound. You cannot transfer these between characters. So you want to get those done first on your main, and then have your alts grab armor and send the armor to your main, so you can get it done quickly in a week. That's like the best way to do it. Also spend your unassembleds. As you can see, you get plenty from nim rating and you get plenty from doing PvP. So that's how you want to do that. So that's kind of how you do the gearing. None of this will change when it goes to 258, which is just one tier up, and that doesn't do anything. I mean, with the 252s, they did not up the raid bosses for nim, so they're still scaled to the 248 gear rating. So if you're in full 248s, which I'm higher than, you're gonna be fine for rating as well. So you don't really have to worry about that. In PvP, you know, the bolster takes you up to 252, but I'm sort of crossed the bolster now and kind of making my own gear now. So, but that's really it for gearing, you know, and you got your main and offhand. Didn't really make any adjustments there. So let's take a look at next the augments that I'm using for each of these. So I'm taking alacrity augment here. For my chest, I'm taking an alacrity augment, alacrity augment, alacrity augment, crit augment, and crit augment. You don't want to use power augments anymore because all the new augments come with power in them, so you don't really need to do that anymore. 236, or I know I have some 236s and some 240s, but it's very minimal difference. If you really want to squeeze every little number out, but for the sake of this guide, it's like if you're at the point where you're squeezing every number out, I mean, you really don't need this guide. I'm just gonna be real honest. Like, this is just to get people who don't know what to do, what to gear with, what augments to take, a direction. Obviously, this is not the only right way to gear. You can this is also, for example, if you're just a PvPer and you don't really touch raids at all, you're not gonna want all this alacrity on your gear. You're gonna want some more power and crit, and that's something to keep in mind. So you could easily replace those augments with power crit augments and the alacrity enhancement with power crit augments, or power crit enhancements. So we got power crit in the offhand. We got this is where my accuracy augment comes in, so I've ripped it out of my gear, so it's here in this augment on my main hand, accuracy on my relic, and alacrity, accuracy. So you just need 3 accuracy augments, by the way. So if you rip all the accuracy out of your gear, you only need 3 accuracy augments, I believe. Or no, it takes more. Yeah, it does take more for this class. Certain classes you can get away with it doing lower, not this one. So we got power with alacrity on this one. We got accuracy. We got accuracy. We got accuracy. Power with alacrity, and then accuracy at the bottom. So basically what I've done is the stats are higher in the pieces of gear is the reason why I've done more accuracy augments, because what's really nice is that accuracy augments still come with power, you know, so like you still get a little bit of damage out of them, and it gets you to this 107%, and then you can make up for your crit rating with the stim here for raids. This will send you into the 110%. So that's all you got to combine it with. Now I don't know the hard little numbers in the background of why this works so much more effectively than just having accuracy in your gear and replacing augments with other stuff, but it does. I mean, it parses higher for me, so I'm sure it will help you parse higher if you do it right. The next thing is the build. So this is for Arsenal, and essentially what this is going to do is I use Arsenal in raids, I use Arsenal in PvP. I like IO, I can always do a guide on that too. I do play it quite a bit as well, but Arsenal is, I feel, smoother, more user-friendly, more versatile than the IO spec is. And I'll go over that as I go through the utilities on what to take and what not to take and why, so people can understand why I don't take certain things. Now, these are going to be done through the PvP perspective, because that's where these utilities really come into hand. So let's take a look here. So what I take for PvP is I like to take afterburners, and the reason why I like to take afterburners is really not for the jet boost knockback effect. It's for the missile blast route. This is really good for your merc if you want to be kiting. and basically you can stop a DPS in their tracks, make him burn a mad dash, make them burn cooldowns while they're sitting there in place without having to use one of your stuns. Next thing I take is Adhesive Supplements, and what this basically does is it targets they damage, tracer missile, and power shot, reduce their movement speed by 40% for 9 seconds. This is an amazing snare. Essentially, the Merc has the capability of keeping any class snared at all times. There's almost no reason why a class should not be snared. Obviously, if you're doing PvE for raids, you're not going to take Adhesive Supplements, and you're not going to take Afterburners, unless maybe for this Direct fight, but you're probably going to want to take something like Improved Vents, which is not usually what I take. I don't really take Gyroscopic Alignment Jets because I don't find my DPS getting stunned all that much in PvE, and in PvP, if you're relying on someone to stun you to do more damage, I don't think that's a good thing to rely on. But you could take something like Jet Escape, or Rocket Out, depending on how mobile the fight is, or Sweeping Blasters if you want to go AoE. Really, there's really not too much PvE utility in this category, but for PvP, these I feel like are the definite go-tos. Now, as we go down for PvP, Masterful is what we're going to do is we take Torque Boosters. Torque Boosters help a lot because they allow you to kite. Essentially, these is what makes Mercs super annoying. This is what you have to do. You have to be able to pop this so that you get extra 4 seconds of not being rooted, which means that they cannot pull you, they cannot stop you for an extra 4 seconds, and that's about 2 global cooldowns. So that could be a big burst you can squeeze in there, and various other things. Now, essentially, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why you gotta take Torque Boosters so you can run away faster. Next is Power Barrier. So we got Power Shot, Rapid Scanning, reduce 1% 15 seconds. Now this one, and Pyro Shield. I like to take either one, really. I mean, it kind of depends. It's like, for me, I don't really find this used to be a must take for a Merc because it used to give you 5% DR when it was stacked, but there is really no point anymore with all the defensive cooldowns a Merc has. I'd rather take the extra damage of Pyro Shield to squeeze that out, because that 5%, it's not gonna save you. It's not gonna stop, someone from bursting you or anything like that. So that's something to take there. Now here for PvP, this is a total must-have in Heroic. Trauma Regulators, where every time you're shot, you get a stack on your shield, and it heals you for 4% of your maximum health, can stack up to 10 times. That's a 40% heal, essentially. Energy Rebounder. Whenever you take damage, whenever your energy shield gets shot, your cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds every 1.5 seconds. You can also have a emit energy run, which absorbs a low amount of damage for at least 6 seconds. It's more DR to your energy shield, which is also really nice. So basically what this does is it lets you get on a DCD cycle, similar to how Juggernauts get on a DCD cycle, where they're going from one DCD to the other, and by the time they've really used up their DCDs, the first one's coming off cooldown. Energy Rebounder is that key for the Mercenary class. Essentially what this will do is it will allow people you'll be getting shot or tunneled in a really long fight, and the healer's keeping you up, and your shield will come off cooldown really, really fast, and then you'll pop it again, you'll get your regulators, and it'll relieve your healer. This helps a lot, and AoEs also help build the ticks on this. So if you're playing a pressure comp, for example, in ranked, this is going to help you a lot. This will help your DCD rotation come back. So next we go into, for PvE, this is not as useful. I very rarely get full stacks, because if you get a full stack of 10 in PvE, you're probably getting shot a lot, and your tanks are probably dead, and it's probably over at that point. So I like to either take Power Overdrives, which gives you 2 insta-casts, or Power Shield, which makes you immune to interrupts, and gives you really what you want is for the healing received by 20% during really heavy burn phases or heavy damage phases. I would say those are the 2 main ones. The rest of these are, stabilizing armor really depends on fight. So, yeah, you're not going to take stabilizing armor over like 2 insta-casts as a DPS, unless there's like just immense amount of AoE going out in this raid fight. But yeah, so that's one of the things. So let's Let's go into legendary. So we got here, we have Colta Overload triggers and heals you up to 60% of your max health. This is a must take. If you don't take this, like this one, and this one, Thrill of the Hunt, Colta Surge, and Trauma Regulators are must takes. If you are going into PvP without any of these utilities, you are at a severe disadvantage. Like, there's no arguing that these are the best utilities for the Merc. Like, you can't make an argument for any other utility. But you want to take the Colto Surge, which increases 60%, and you want to be able to use your Blazing Bolts and Unload and Progressive Scan on the move. For the case of Arsenal, it's going to be Blazing Bolts, and for IO, it will be Unload that you want to do on the move. This gives you your mobility. It's extremely important. So there we go. So that's really the build. Luckily for Arsenal, the rotation is not too wild. So if you click down where my bars are, essentially you'll see that I got pretty much the whole rotation keybound. I was playing IO, so I have Explosive Dart. That's Shift E. That should actually be Chat Flares. But let's go over, before we go into actually the rotation, let's go over the defensive cooldowns real quick so that people understand some tricks of how they work in PvP. So it's not on my bar right now for some reason, because I was doing IO for raids. It's right, where did you go? It's in the mercenary. Starts with the C, so there it is. Chat Flares. So essentially, Chat Flares, what it does is it gives you 2 charges to absorb force and tech attacks. Now, for those who do not know or are new to the game, force and tech attacks are often represented with yellow damage when you're being attacked or attacking others, and they do not work on weapon damage. Weapon damage is white damage, which means it's like a sniper's ambush, a marauder's offhand, things like that. The Chat Flares will not absorb an ambush, so don't be that merc who's out in the PvP warzone, sees an ambush and be like, I'm gonna Chat Flare it. No, you're about to get hit by like 37k and it's gonna hurt. So don't do that. Don't be that guy. So that shit does not work against that. So next is the energy shield. Now energy shield, usually when you're in a fight and if they want to go you first, which should be a mistake. You don't want to go the merc first unless you feel like they're bad enough you could do that. But you don't want to do that. So what you want to do is use energy shield first. Now here's why you want to use energy shield first and not reflect first. So many mercs in war zones like to use reflect first. But here's the thing, energy shield and reflect have pretty similar cooldowns, right? It's about 15 seconds off. But here's the thing, you have energy rebounder. Your energy shield is going to come back much faster. It's going to be the first cooldown to come back to you because of that utility. So if you start popping reflect first, then energy shield, and then Colta Overload, you are not making the most efficient decision with your mercenary. You're going to be sitting there out of cooldowns at some point in the fight, especially if you're fighting a Juggernaut, or you're fighting a Marauder, or an Assassin, or an Operative who know what they're doing, because Operatives are still the best one-on-one class. So if you are fighting one, DCD management and DCD utilization is important. It is very important. So that is something you want to use first. Also, your reflect can be used while you are stunned. So which means that you want to sometimes save this for when the guy is trying to stun lock you. This especially is very useful when 2 assassins or an operative and assassin come out and pop out on you and you need to survive. Because yes, the Merc got a lot of cooldowns in 5.0, which made them really strong compared to what they used to be and in my last guide of what they were. But here's the thing, when you are stunned and you are being attacked, you are still the old Merc. Yeah, when these cooldowns are not up, you are a merc for pre 5.0. At that point, you can still be bursted in between your cooldowns. So what you need to do is you need to always make sure that your cooldowns are coming off of a rotation. Colta Overload, I have a 25% rule. If I reach 25% or I'm just like between 25 and 30%, I will usually pop Colta Overload. And here is why. Unless my shield's about to come off, you know, or something to give me a big ass heal, that's different. But what I mean is like you don't have your shield or your reflect up at this point and the fight has dragged on. The reason why I say this is a lot of people say, why don't you wait for less? You're already at 25%, it's only going to take you to 60. And what I would say to that is, there's a lot of classes in this game that are going to blow you up. Which I mean is, 25% health is nothing. Like for my Heat Seeker Rail Shot combo, 25% health ain't shit. I can take someone from 100 down to 60, down to even sometimes 50% health if I crit on both. That's going to be, that's like literally, you can't do that. You cannot set at 25% health because that is literally a global cooldown of damage, so that you're going to leave that possibility open. If you're playing against hard swaps in a ranked match, what's going to happen is if you're at 25% health, you are going to get stunned, and then you are going to get blown up. It's going to, because you cannot activate Kolto while stunned on the mercenary. So you got to keep that in mind, that they know that you have this ability. They're going to try to stop you from using it. At least a smart player is going to try to stop you from using it. They're going to try to stun lock you to kill you. That's why you want to be preemptive with your Kolto overload. Now with the DCDs there's something else I want to talk about, is the off healing. Now a lot of mercs really rely on these DCDs to stay alive, but they forgot, people like me who've been maining this since the launch, we used to survive without these DCDs. And that's a really important skill set. You should not replace these DCDs with learning how to kite, because if you try to learn how to kite, you don't have to use your DCDs as often. So if you see a merc on the other team, let's assume we're doing 4s, even though 8, like these are for regs too. You can use all these things. Whatever you can use in 4s as strats, you can use them in regs against other players. So what the thing you need to always make sure is that, let's say there's a merc on the other team, and he's their ranged DPS, you're the ranged DPS of your merc, just for hypothetical reasons, or whatever DPS is on the other side. And he isn't really kiting, he's another ranged character, and he's going through cooldowns. You are not, because you are kiting. You're kiting and LOSing when they try to tunnel you, and then you off-heal yourself, you come around the pillar, the healer dumps a few heals on you, maybe the Sork pulls you, you rock it out. You know, you're running around, but you're not having to pop your shield just yet. You know, so I have a 20% rule. Essentially, I don't usually pop my shield until I reach around, lose about 20% of health. So what this does is two things. A lot of people will try to bait you. They're gonna start tunneling you, and then they're gonna be like, we're gonna get the merc to pop his cooldowns. They're gonna make you pop. Don't pop it. Make them stay on you until they've committed further than 20% health, because that's a couple of global cooldowns if you're kiting, you know, and you're healing yourself. So that's something to keep in mind with that. So keep your kiting going and still utilize your healing abilities. They are very useful. If you don't need to waste a cooldown, don't waste a cooldown in a PvP fight. You never know when an operative is going to pop out on you, or an assassin is going to pop out on you, and you need that cooldown, but you wasted it because someone was lightly pelting you with AoEs, you know. So don't pop that. Secondly, when it comes to your shield pops up here. If you look by the health bars, you can see that your shield is up there. If you reach 10 stacks and you need the heal now, right click it off and you will receive the heal. It's a fancy little trick. I know it takes a little clicking. I'm not even sure if you can legitly keybind that. I'm sure there's some macro out there that could do it, but I'm pretty sure that you cannot keybind a click up there. So, but you click it off, you'll get a heal immediately. It's kind of nice. It's a nice little trick. People wonder how I get my heal off with my shield really quickly. You'll be surprised how many people don't know that. So now that we've gone over the cooldowns, we can go over the basic rotation of this class. Essentially, PvP and PvE, very different from each other. I would say, like, PvE is, you gotta be a little bit more strict with your rotation than PvP, because PvP is like a priority system, you know, like people have defensive cooldowns being popped and things like that, so you don't want to, like, you know, waste burst. But bosses very rarely have defensive cooldowns for a mercenary, like that will stop you essentially, and you don't really, unless your raid specifically tells you to hold burst off, and things like that. But let's take a look at the bar down here. So essentially what you're going to want to do is you're going to keep wanting to fire Tracer Missile until you get your 5 or so stacks, and use Blazing Bolts almost off of cooldown. So basically what you want to do with the rotation is you want to just go, the tracer missile builds about, it takes about 3 tracer missiles to get a full stack so you can hit your rail shot. Essentially the rotation has not changed from my previous Merc video. So it's all the same. It literally is. Like, you want to use priming shot whenever you need it. You want to get that debuff on them in PvP for priming shot because they take more range damage. And it makes your next tracer missile go instant. And that essentially will help you, you know, keep up DPS, keep up your sustained. But this is mainly a burst class. So what I like to do is, I like to combine my heat seekers with my rail shot. So another interesting way to kind of keep the cycle going is you want to hit priming shot, get your insta tracer, make sure you have 4 stacks on rail shot before you do this. Pop heat seekers rail shot into a tracer missile. You can do it relatively quickly, especially if you have an alacrity up to where I'm at in alacrity. And keep in mind that Arsenal comes with 3% built-in alacrity, so even if you have 0 alacrity, you will be at 3%. So that helps you get through alacrity tiers much faster. So that's something to keep in mind. And I like my alacrity just here. I think everything comes off cooldown, and the global cooldown's the right speed for me. And alacrity is really personal too. So keep that in mind as well. Like, what alacrity will work for me may not work for you in your rotation, because maybe your reflexes are faster than mine. Maybe you like that extra speed. More power to you, you know, but keep in mind, every bit that you put into alacrity, you are taking away from burst damage. So you do also need to find that balance between your burst and more alacrity, because Arsenal is not a dot spec, so you don't get the benefit of being really fast all the time. But you can parse a lot, you can pull a hell of a lot, but you're not going to hit anything as hard. You're not going to get 40k crits. In this build, I have gotten a 40k crit in a Warzone multiple times. So it's very doable with this build. And you could get probably even hit 41, 42, or 43k hit out of, on average, what is 135k health pool. You can get a big crit like that. Even more so, because if I was to go pure PvP, I would take all the accuracy out and some of the alacrity out and go flat out into crit damage, crit power, and then put whatever's left over after DR, diminishing returns, not damage reduction, but diminishing returns, that put that into alacrity. But essentially, that's what you want to do. You want to fire your tracer missile and get that debuff on him, and you want to make sure you're priming shot debuff on him, and after that it is all priority system from there. There's only a few abilities you're going to need in your rotation. Tracer missiles to build your stacks, heat seekers for burst, this is your big burst ability, rail shot, use only at 5 stacks. Don't use it when it's not 5 stacks. You are not going to get any benefit out of it. Like, it will literally hit like a wet noodle if you do not have 5 stacks. Like, I've seen my rail shot hit Garbo numbers when it's not at 5 stacks. You want to keep your missile blast for your root. It's not there for damage. Don't spam it. It builds a lot of heat for no reason. If you're gonna spam it, don't do that. These would be chafflers here, but go blazing bolts, right? Whenever it comes off the cooldown. Secondly, if you find yourself in a long fight getting a little heated up, make sure that you use thermal sensor override, right? Override with blazing bolts together, because this will make your next ability free of heat, and blazing bolts is a casted ability, right? So it generates heat over the duration of the cast. If you use thermal sensor override, it does not generate heat for the entire cast, not just the initial heat tick, which means you will get the most return on heat if you use it with this ability. So you would want to go from, if you're really overheated, you're going to want to go thermal sensor override, blazing bolts, and then you're going to want to put a rapid shots in there. That's what you're going to want to do. So that way, that will be about 5-6 seconds of keeping your sustain up and still making your heat go down significantly. Also, when you reach 10 stacks of supercharge, let's get to that 10 stacks. As you can see, it's building underneath my health bar. So we got 6, 7. Let's build a little bit faster. Your rapid scan builds stacks of 2. Oh, no, it still does 1. Never mind. That's your tracers. So here you go. So now you got this. This will also decrease your heat as well. So if we build it up, let's build it up. Build it up. Oh wow, I'm just throwing heat away really fast, but alright, then you pop this, look, the heat will just shoot down a little bit and it'll come down really fast. And also this increases your armor pen, which is really important. So you want to use that on big burst. You want to make sure before you pop it, you want to make sure that your heat seekers and your rail shot are ready to go. So what I like to do is I like to pop it, throw a net on somebody, because yes, each tick of net benefits from armor pen, which is pretty brutal during its duration. Then you want to go into a blazing bolt and into a heat seeker rail shot. Now if you're afraid that they're going to pop a cooldown, you're going to want to go heat seeker rail shot and net blazing bolts. That's the order you're going to want to go in, because you get your burst out real quick, and at this point you shouldn't open up with this, right? So you should have your tracer lock and your priming shot debuff from ranged attack damage on them at this point. But that's really it there for this class. There really isn't any special trick to it. There isn't no secret rotation to the mercenary class to get the most out of it. This is how you want to do it. The rest is LOSing, kiting, using your self heals efficiently, using your DCDs efficiently, using your utilities efficiently, you know, sapping, having good target prioritization. Most people don't struggle with rotation. Usually in PvP, when people don't do as good, it's not rotationally based. It is they don't know what targets to prioritize. You know, they will start shooting at the wrong targets. They will be focusing tanks. They will chase a healer. They will do the wrong thing, essentially. Make wrong decisions, and then wrong decisions add up to frustration when you die, ultimately. So all these things can be used in regs. Like, I don't think it's any secret that ranked PvP is not as populated in this game. It's usually a very select group of people that play it. A lot of cheating, a lot of win trading, things like that go on. A lot of throwing for their friends, you know, because the queues are so small and there's no cross-server queues. So that's something to keep in mind, that these will work in regs. Like, I mean, if they work, usually a ranked game will have more pressure than a regs game will, right? Because it's only 4 of you on each team, more focus on individual people to win. But in a regs match, don't forget the target priority, depending on what's going on. Like, I can't give you a target priority because it really depends on what you're playing. So if they have a healer and 2 tanks on their team, like, the healer is probably not going to be the one you want to tunnel with all the taunts going out, all the guards that are being swapped, that, you know, like, it's just simple stuff like that. But yeah, that's really it for the mercenary. So yeah, if you thought that was useful, maybe you want some more information, you can throw it down in a comment or below, something like that. I'll answer them, you know. So until then, see you guys next time.